that fourth grade? I didn't know.
What are you, fourth grade?
Yeah, you're right.
You're 9, 10, I guess, yeah.
I really packed mine all hit me when I was 29. It just was weird. Like, and that's what baffled everybody. Is like, how did you make it through your 20s? And I had everything fine, and then out of nowhere, it just like hit me. And what it was I had a horrible case of sleep apnea because I had bad sinuses, and somehow that throws off your metabolism when your sleep is really bad, and it just went haywire. So I put on like 50 pounds in 3 or 4 months, and then I just thought, oh, screw it, I don't know how to get it off, so I just kept going. And
it's interesting. Undiagnosed sleep apnea is a big problem for a lot of people, but I, as a fat guy, never had it, and it runs in my family. My dad has CNS apnea, and he wears a CPAP at night and stuff. And I'm very lucky. Even at my heaviest, my blood pressure was never too high, or it was like 130/90, and my cholesterol never got over 200. And it was just one of those things where. I had other health issues associated with the obesity, but the ones that you think of, I was like, well, I'm making it.
But I could just see your doctor telling you that your blood pressure's good, your cholesterol's good, but that's not the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It's you. Oh, stop it. Just laugh.
I laugh.
If you don't laugh, you'll cry. Okay, that's how I look at it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I know what I'm getting myself into. It's just still mortifying. I'm the one who invited you here. That always baffles me is like how people can be like I was at my most about 140 pounds overweight, and I still, even after losing 100 pounds, my blood pressure is too high. And then I have other friends, including, I'm not going to name names, but one who passed away a couple of years ago, and he was even bigger than you were, and he claims that he didn't have high blood pressure. And everybody said, oh, it was a surprise when he passed, and it was like, well, not really, but maybe, I don't know.
Well, blood pressure and cholesterol are genetic.
To a large extent, I agree.
Yeah, there's some people that don't have that problem because it's not in their
I'm
genes.
very lucky. But I think one of the things people sort of, I think one of the things that people need to realize about people who are as heavy as I was is it's not easy. No. It's incredibly hard to be that heavy. Mm-hmm. And people have this idea that it's weakness or that it's just an inability to control what goes in your mouth. And true, nobody put a gun to my head and made me eat cheeseburgers, but I was flying in the face of this constant wind. And sometimes you lose ground. And the important thing I think that I want to tell people is that you have to be incredibly strong to be 500 pounds. Mm. And you just have to learn how to aim that strength a different direction. Because it hurts. It hurts.
You do a 180. That's all it is.
Yeah,
it sounds simple, but it isn't.
Yeah,
and it took a lot of work to get there.
The thing I like to tell people is live in the 10 minutes from now. I would find myself at the end of a Jack in the Box drive-through with a bag full of food that I knew I was going to eat and that I knew I was going to hate myself for. Mm-hmm. And I started to do this thing I called living in the 10 minutes from now, which was. Everybody wants you to live in the present. I want you to live in the 10 minutes from now. I want you to live with that decision that you're going to make and think about how you're going to feel about it in 10 minutes. And you and I both know what's real and what's important. And in 10 minutes, you're going to know that Jack in the Box food is not a good idea. And you just have to honor that feeling, that 10 minutes from now decision making. It really has helped me a lot. The surgery has made my stomach very small, and it has taken away that constant pressure to eat. But it's still easy to trick it. I could be drinking milkshakes all day long. It's one of those things where you have to come to terms with what's important to you. And a friend of mine said a long time ago that most unhappiness results from confusing what we want with what we want right now. I mean, we're all fortunate enough to live in a place and be people who have a kind of, most of our basic needs are taken care of, and we're dealing with choices. And I want to be around. I want to live, and I don't want to die. And at 525, that was a real possibility, and I had to make a decision, and I decided.
Yeah. So with you, Bob, I mean, what was... I'll get to my tipping point, just no pun intended, I guess, in a second. But I mean, like for you, what was one of the key moments that made you want to lose weight, along the way?
It was just unhappiness, sadness of the weight. And the first time I actually lost weight was in high school, my junior year. I lost 60 pounds and got on the football team and did everything you're supposed to do, but I didn't learn how I lost the weight. I did it through fasting, which I think stunted my growth because I was 17 at the time. Because I have a brother who's 6'3", and I'm 5'11". And my other brother did the same thing in high school, and he's 5'11". So that or Tony's adopted. That's all we know. But it's those periods. And then, there was a point in the late 80s, I got to 350. And I was, no cough button, by the way, Andrew.
I'm sorry.
We heard that. Do you have a hernia again?
No.
Did you just check? Anyway, so I just want to see how fascinating your hernia is. You have an impressive hernia.
It was.
Do you think that was a bad pickup line on her part? I mean, she didn't want to mention your appendix.
She wanted to ask him if he was happy to see her. Or
maybe it's code talk in the hospital. Hey, that's an impressive hernia right there.
The doctors told me after the surgery that they had other surgeons came to look at me. Like, it was like that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, my apnea was so bad, I was actually the subject of a medical journal article. I was one of the worst cases in the world.
Oh, wow.
Worst, yeah. But anyways, I'm sorry, Bob.
Who did you pay off for that? You don't understand how bad it's got to be the worst.
Oh, it was horrible, dude.
There's always something more horrible.
I was up there, man.
But when I was like, I was somewhat of a successful comedian, and I had done a lot of TV, and I did some movies, and I decided to lose the weight. And the one thing I heard was, "Is Bob Zany funny fat?" And they didn't think I was, which
funny
I was.
Without fat or funny fat?
No, funny not being fat anymore.
Yeah,
because people see what they want to see in life. That's all they saw. I had Chris Beer on show and did the Sonny and Cher show and all that. He told me that he hired me to do stuff. He said they always like the funny fat guy. Mm-hmm. So I got work because of that. Mm-hmm. And then when I lost the weight, I had to reinvent myself, and I'd go to the Improv in Melrose, and I took any spot they'd give me for like almost a year. I'd go on stage at 1 o'clock in the morning just to get used to. It wasn't the fat jokes; it was the references to being a fat comedian that I had to get out of my mindset, and relying on that. And you see people like Louis Anderson, who's a friend of mine, and there's a couple of people just passed away, Ralphie May and John Panette, who are overweight comedians and very successful at that. Their fear is if they lose the weight, they're not funny, but funny is funny. That's just a prop that you have to lose and create another prop for it, And I truly believe if they all had lost weight, they'd still be funny people.
Yeah, because I'm dealing with that myself. I mean, I'm nowhere near your level of comic, but I mean, I have played professionally at all the clubs here at various points. But and it's like now I'm looking at like, okay, I want to get on stage and keep doing this, but it's like a lot of my act I could get away with like just being lazy, telling funny things about being fat or oh, remember the time this happened, or hey, I'm losing weight. But now I'm at a point where nobody really believes that
you
anymore.
Can't say that.
So I have to invent a whole new persona, a whole new bunch of stuff about.
All they see is what they see.
Yeah,
they don't know the past.
Yeah,
it's the present. It's that very moment, and maybe even 10 minutes from now they'll see that you're a big fat guy. Yeah. But right now, I don't.
Yeah, well, I'm in a weird position where I created a pilot, shot with a bunch of friends, and we shot it last December, and then I've lost like 60 pounds since then, and we're realizing, we got to do a couple reshoots or change some scenes, and I'm like, thank God I held on to the shirts. I'm just going to have to like pretend that, just put on these tents that I used to wear. And
I had to do that for a pilot, and we went back to film about a year later and had to put on a fat suit.
Oh my God.
So you can do it.
Yeah, well, the finale involves Bob Fisher, the owner of the Ice House, the real one, like chewing me out about, man, you're a mess. Look at you, got to lose weight. And I mean, I still thankfully can lose about 50, so I guess it'll work some. But it is kind of weird to have a large part of the premise be completely gone.
Well, when I was doing after the weight loss, I used that as a strength, and I pitched and I did a Larry Sanders show because Judd Apatow was on it, and I said, what you should have is Bob Zany come on as a stand-up, and he's lost all this weight, and he's twice as funny and I go out and I bomb.
Oh.
And the closing scene would have been me in the green room eating a big cake. Because you embrace it, you know what I mean? Of course, they didn't go with that idea.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is, the circumstances that you're given as a comedian, you use them. It doesn't matter. But you can't talk in the past like that because they don't see that. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can wear the shirt still, the old big fat shirt. And so this used to fit me. Maybe that would be the visual if you really need that.
Taking the giant pants out might be the way to go.
John Bazar, the comedian, has a big giant pair of pants he brings out. He never wore them, but But maybe you can update the giant pants bit.
There you go. But so what was, for each of you, was there like a couple of like really, like as we're saying, the oh man, that's awful kind of moments, like where you're like, oh God, that was so embarrassing, if you don't mind sharing something?
When I was performing on the road, sometimes people, when I start walking out, they'd yell Louis Anderson, which really bothered me.
Wow.
And so that was like one of the things. I said, I'm not Louis Anderson. Louis is his own, thing, and I don't dress up like my mother.
Yeah. Well, how about for you, Andrew?
When you're that fat, every day is 1,000 tiny indignities. Air travel. I used to have to, I remember very vividly the first time I was at the Burbank airport. I had checked in at a Southwest kiosk, and I walked to the gate, and I was sitting there waiting for my plane, and the gate agent came on the speaker and said, Mr. Solmssen, please come to the counter. And so I went to the counter, and another severe blonde lady looked at me and said, Mr. Solmssen, we're going to have to ask you to buy another ticket. And that's a moment in your life, And so I bought the ticket, and then I sat down and realized I never talked to anybody. I never saw anybody at this airport. So somewhere at Southwest, there was a database with my name in it and a fat guy check mark next to it. And they had to figure out how to get me to buy another ticket. And so, it was just terrible. The joke I did about it a long time ago was that I was going to use my IT powers for evil and hack into Southwest and make everybody a fat guy. And see how
you never did that? Because I think they're doing that now.
Well, they're doing that by making
Southwest.
They're doing it by making the seats smaller, I think.
I did. To tell the truth, they brought it back in 1991 with Alex Trebek was the host, and it was Who's the Real Bob Zany. So I had two other guys who were there. Apologize, David. I'm not using the mic properly. Now I am. Okay, man. Anyway, so I spent 10 hours with these two guys being asked every question in the world so they could come across as Bob Zany. And I was a little blotchy that day, and I kept asking for makeup because my face was, just blotchy for whatever reason. And so, we're standing behind the curtain. The curtain would come up, and they'd say, Who's the Real Bob Zany? And right before they bring up the curtain, they said, yeah, makeup is on the way. It wasn't. So I realized a lot of lies went down on To Tell the Truth. But every question that these two guys asked me, which were good questions, not one of the four contestants or four judges asked me those questions. And one was about the airline, Kitty Carlisle, if you remember her. Did you have to buy 2 seats on the airline? I said, did you have to get extra carry-on for your makeup? Because I'm a people person. But anyway, so Ron Mask, who played the sheriff on Murder, She Wrote, and he's a character actor, I ran into him at a commercial audition. I said, how did you... They all picked me. And I gave them nothing. I said, how did you know it was me? He says, you're the only one there with confidence as you sat there. Which I didn't know I was exuding, but I guess I was exuding confidence. And they all picked me as Bob Zany. So that was kind of an interesting story. It was awful.
Well, for me, I had an airline story that probably was what happened to you, Andrew. I was actually on switching planes in Salt Lake City once, and we're on the tarmac, and there's this big delay. The flight crew. I was in the fourth row. On the left, and the flight crew's all looking around, really concerned, and looking at some screens or whatever, and they keep looking around, then they're all staring at me, and then finally the flight attendant grabs the safety announcement mic And she leans over to me. She goes, "Sir, we need you to stand up, please." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we need a volunteer from the right side of the plane